Hello and welcome to this short video on me improving the looks of this Hornby London Transport Sentinel. Now I bought one of these Sentinels because there's one preserved locally to me at the Hornby LT Railway. It does state on the back that DL81, which this model represents, is preserved, but I've been led to believe that it was actually scrapped in 2005, which is unfortunate. So having a look at the model, I've already removed it from the box. For some reason, Hornby has chosen these strange dumb buffer type things, which according to photographic evidence online, DL81 didn't actually carry. Or if it did carry them, it didn't carry them for long. Here we see DL83 at the Nene Valley, and you can clearly see the rectangular shaped buffers on this loco. You can also see the wording and lettering is very bright and legible. However, on the Hornby model, this printing leaves a lot to be desired, and you can barely read it unless you're really close to the model. So what I'm going to do with this Hornby Sentinel is I've obtained from a friend of mine some white metal rectangular buffers that are meant for a class 60. However, they are a very good match for those on the Sentinel that's preserved at the Nene Valley. Trying to remove these rectangular dumb buffers off the Hornby model proved to be quite difficult. They are glued in very solid and they would not pull out with these pliers. So what I end up doing is I go through my toolbox and find my blunted scalpel, and I just insert the blade underneath the buffers there just to loosen the glue, and as you'll see in a second, that buffer will ping off into the ether like it just did do, and it comes off freely, leaving a hole in the buffer beam. The other one also flies off, but I do retrieve them both, and I'll keep them in my spares box should I ever need them. Now, to my dismay, instead of having the usual circular hole for buffers, they are rectangular, which is unfortunate. Here are the two retrieved plastic dumb buffers. They'll go into the spares box. And the chassis on this model is die cast. So instead of trying to drill that out, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trim these white metal buffers up so that they fit in the rectangular holes that have been left by Hornby's effort of a buffer. So what I'm going to do using this small file, as you'll see here, I've removed the location plug from the back, and I've also filed the edges down ever so slightly. I'll just give you one there that's not modified for comparison. So I've filed the edges down ever so slightly to maintain the rivet detail, and now it fits into that aperture almost exactly. And I will fix this in place with a spot of super glue. Then we'll touch the paint up. When you do this to any model, if you make sure that the buffers are straight and true. What I'm doing there is I'm just scraping some of that Hornby applied paintwork so that the glue has got something to key to. And then using a very small amount of Loctite gel type super glue out of these easy pens, which I don't actually think Loctite make anymore, which is unfortunate. Once the glue's on, basically I press and hold this buffer in. There are two sides to this. There's a small step on the top. Make sure that the small square casting is facing upwards, and then basically push it into the aperture and then let the super glue set. As I said, it is important that you make sure that the buffer is level and true. And gentle finger pressure there. The glue doesn't take long to take hold on this situation. And once the glue's taken hold and is starting to dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of rolling stock just to align and make sure the buffer height is correct and they are positioned correctly. So here I am with the other buffers here. Basically I cut that white metal lug off with the scalpel blade. It's white metal, so it's very soft. I then file it flat using various different files, and then, as I said, just file away gently on the edges up to the rivet detail, and then this should allow it to fit in those apertures correctly. So here we have two buffers fitted on one end, and Hornby number 60 comes to the rescue again. I've used this in previous videos, so I'm just going to touch in the paint. I didn't bother priming them because in my experience, just touching up little white metal parts, the paint does adhere quite well. And when this Hornby number 60 has dried, it is almost identical to that red that Hornby's used. So here I am just touching in those buffer shanks there. And then once the buffer shanks are done, I'm going to use some Rail Match Black, which unfortunately I found at this time was quite watery. I had stirred it up, but I don't know if this paint's going off, but this took 2 or 3 coats to apply the black. So while that paint's drying, we're going to take a look again at the detail on the Nene Valley version. This particular Sentinel, you can see the buffer detail here, has also had air and vacuum pipes added, and I'll be adding these to my model at a later date. One thing Hornby has missed off is the Lily Bridge branding on the buffer beam, as there is nothing on the Hornby model whatsoever. So I'm going to continue now by touching in these the painting on this model. And here is the other end with both of the white metal buffers fitted before I paint them, just to show you what it looks like now that it's been fitted with the correct profile of buffers. And it has lifted the detail on this model to a new level. The green livery on this model looks quite good, but as I said, these London Transport transfers really need to be replaced with something better, so that'll be a project for me in the future. So here we are with the buffers painted. The shanks are painted silver and the buffer heads are black. I've also painted the rear of the buffers because they have detail on them, and I've touched in the rivet detail and crank pins there. I've just put some red paint on them. These side plates here are quite delicate, so don't be picking your model up using those because they will snap off. And I think now that this model has got buffers fitted, it actually looks complete. But the story doesn't end there, as I had quite a lot of trouble with my Sentinel. As seen here on the rolling road, the chassis just would not run properly when I was testing it outside. In fact, it was so bad, and you can see there that there's something not quite right with this. It kept stopping at every half turn, and then the motor would buzz. And it took 3 different chassis before I found one that ran to my satisfaction and correctly without jamming up like this one is here. This is another quality control issue from Hornby, and it shouldn't really take 3 different chassis off 3 different models to find a good runner. So as I said before, this was a very short video just showing how to fit buffers to these London Transport Sentinels. I don't know why Hornby put dumb buffers on it in the first place, because they were only used for hauling underground stock around when they had those buffers fitted. The 2 Sentinels that worked engineering trains on the underground were actually fitted with proper buffers. So I'll leave it now, stretching its legs on the railway, running in with its new chassis. I hope it's been useful to somebody seeing this video. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you again in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.